Okay, welcome very much. Really welcome to MNN. It's a great pleasure. I'm really honored to have you here. Glad you could make it. And in the audience, we have a special guest, if I may say so, at this on this occasion. That being Scott Draves. He's a software artist extraordinaire, if ever it was to be added to a person's name. And he's also the founder of what is known probably to many of the people who are cyber wise, as they say in the broader society, of a screensaver called Electric Sheep that seems to be on the screens of a great many and a growing number of our people who are interested in things cybernetic. And I think he's associated with Google now, and he's been an artist, and it's a great honor to welcome you. Welcome very, very much, Scott Draves, to Conversation.
Thanks, Harold. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a great pleasure to talk with you. We met recently at an event where Ray Kurzweil was premiering his new film, The Singularity is Near.
That's right.
And so forth. And then I had been made aware of Electric Sheep by some people I know who are very aware of computers like I am not. But it's really amazing. But I wonder if you could, Scott, would you please, we're going to show some of the people that and so forth, but could you share your own background? Born and raised, educated a little bit.
Sure.
We can talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into a broad discussion about cybernetics, technology, and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I was born in 1968, so I'm about 42 years old. And my family moved around a lot until we settled down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I grew up in the suburbs, went to public school, have, 3 brothers and sisters, a very, very smooth situation. And then I went to college at Brown University.
In Rhode Island.
Providence, Rhode Island, that's right.
Vartan Gregorian was there for a while.
Vartan Gregorian, that's right.
Yeah,
he was the president when I was there.
Oh, he was. Okay,
that's right.
Okay.
It switched.
I
don't remember.
Good school.
I had a blast, and
were you
I learned
at Rhode
a lot.
Island School of Design too?
That's right next to. They're both sort of up on the hill.
Sort of together, like?
They're not. I don't know if there's any official affiliation, but you can, like, people do go back and forth.
Right.
I think you might be able to take a class at the other school and whatnot.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
So in my case, I was doing, working with Andy Van Dam and Thomas Banchoff. I don't know if you've.
I see he was your advisor, I think. Am I wrong? I'm wrong. No, your advisor at the PhD level.
Well, that was later. I went to grad school.
Yeah.
But I've been programming computers. I really got into that early on, actually in the late 70s. When I was in grade school, I encountered the Apple IIe computer. I think our whole school, which had I don't know how many, hundreds of students, had one computer.
Yeah. In what year did you say?
78.
78. Yeah,
Sorry.
you didn't have the IBM with Charlie Chaplin campaign about 1980 or so.
No, this
when the
was
personal computer was just coming online, or.
Yeah, it was. Some people, people draw the lines at different points.
Yeah.
And, depending on what you call things. But I certainly got into the Apple thing first.
Could I ask you a little bit, the family setting, were your parents intellectually oriented, or what? Were you encouraged in terms of that, or maybe?
Yeah, totally.
I think the family setting is very important, don't you, in terms of, or what do you think?
I'm totally indebted to them, and what they were as well. My mother was a high school math teacher.
Okay, mathematics.
That's right. And my father was, originally in the Foreign Service as an economic analyst, and that's why we were moving around a lot.
Yeah.
So he was like stationed in a different embassy every year and whatnot.
If I may, I have great respect for the professional Foreign Service people. They seem to be of a good cut, if you ask me.
I have a lot of respect for my father. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And although I don't have much personal experience as an adult with that world.
Right.
So, but then he switched careers. And then went to work for Westinghouse, and so that's how we ended up settling in Pittsburgh.
Right. Okay. Right.
So,
so you picked up on the computer and so forth, and you've been running with it ever since. I guess.
And totally, and from the get-go was doing what you might call, drawings or abstract designs, programming the computer to create imagery and animation.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into programming. And so then later, so that's why it wasn't that I was a programmer and sort of like became an artist later or something like that. It was really all happening together from the get-go.
And it was happening in terms of your own, look at this term autodidact. You were teaching yourself.
That's right.
As much as you were learning within the formal structure, but you were really into what you were doing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like summer vacation was great. I did it, all day, every day.
Yes, right.
And there were no classes.
Right.
I didn't have a teacher in that sense. My older brother was also into computers. We were sort of on parallel tracks. He actually, I think, had a friend who had a IBM PC, or maybe encountered like something like that. So he was doing his thing, and also with like the programmable calculators.
Yeah.
I think we both had that, and he was especially into that. But my thing was the Apple II.
Yeah, and you're talking now Rhode Island now. That's undergrad, and you took a degree in.
Well, that was later. But this, I learned to program.
Oh, I see. Before you got to university. Yeah.
Yeah, it was grade school initially, and then mostly high school when I really got into it.
Right. Okay.
And I was already like, selling stuff to magazines and doing like little consulting jobs for the neighbors and stuff like that when I was in high school.
Right, okay, and you were into it. And then you decided to go, if I could, you took a degree at the university there in Rhode Island.
In math, right.
And then in math, and then you went to Carnegie Mellon.
And then I went back to Pittsburgh to attend Carnegie Mellon, which...
How did you happen to select that school to go to? Was it with Hans Moravec was there as a
He was there, but I didn't know about him when I picked it. Pretty much, I decided to go there because it's the best, and
it is.
Yes,
you feel that way. Yeah.
It's the ratings agencies give it the number one computer science.
Computer science. You did it in computer science. Yes. I think of more is robotics, but we're talking in the control room. They're sort of joined at the hip, aren't they? Is technological extension.
They're very much related.
Yeah.
But Carnegie Mellon has been a super pioneer, especially in artificial intelligence, and really the computer science department is very large. The whole campus was wired very early. They're one of the first nodes on the internet. And what really attracted me, though, wasn't so much the rating, but the culture they have, which was very much oriented towards solving the big problems and sort of addressing them. Without any kind of constraints. And so it wasn't about, the sort of short-term goals and sort of slickness. It was really, taking the intellectual problems, on directly and, seeing what you could do. And
in terms of computer science.
In terms of computer science.
That's a lot of mathematics, or what is it that one brings to that understanding?
Well, there's
algorithms.
There's mathematics, there's algorithms, there's operating systems, there's graphics. There's a lot of subspecialties.
Hardware and software.
Hardware, that's right. There's computer engineering. There's and at CMU, like there's the undergrads all had computers, and so there was a really extensive network of people who were into this really early on.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was attracted to that.
It was an iteration that was coming from Turing and way back and everything. It was coming from Abacus, I guess, and everything, the ability to do things. But it was really moving into high gear as you came up to being able to appreciate how important and interesting all of those developments were and are, I guess.
Sure. Well, right? Well after Turing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know. It's just we talk about, but that we're doing that, and you say Carnegie Mellon. Okay. There was the media lab up at MIT, and then there was Stanford, and there's other places, a lot of other places.
Sure.
You seem to think you have a great brief for your alma mater, huh?
Yeah, totally. No, I applied. I applied to all the grad schools. I was accepted everywhere.
Okay, you had a pretty good
I flew all over the
record.
country and visited all of them, and made my decision.
Okay, you made it there. Okay, that's good. And you did computer science.
That's right.
Who was your advisor and so forth, and how long did it take? And what was the course of study that you embarked on in order? You gained a PhD degree.
I got a PhD
in computer programming.
Computer science.
Computer science. Okay, that's a different thing. But you had an advisor, you wrote a dissertation, all that sort of thing. And what is it that for somebody in the computer sciences, we have Ray Kurzweil, we both admire him, he's written very well philosophically on it. And when you're talking about the problems, you're talking about the problems of writing software or the new iteration of hardware that's coming along, how you interface with all that. And then all of that can be put within a larger social or even political context because it has huge implications for the whole operation of what Bucky Fuller would have called Spaceship Earth, that unfortunately seems not to have been brought with an operating manual. You know what I mean?
Well, it's more and more wired, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the whole planet is more and more surrounded by a network of computers, and they play an integral role in where we're going.
It's amazing, isn't it? And it's going quickly. A transistor, and then I don't know, integrated circuits, and it all came, and then we got Mr. Intel, and we got the silicon chip.
That's right.
And it keeps going, and we have this Moore's law. I want to address it quick. We want to get quickly because I know we have a thing about electric sheep we want to get to.
That's
but we'll
right.
go to, are we going to be running out? The Moore's law doubles every 18 months or something in terms of that.
Well, it's going to run out eventually. Moore's law is defined, but it will be replaced by something else.
That's what I wanted to ask you, whether you have an inside track and understanding. What's it going to be? I hear tell of a thing called carbon-60, where it's going to be molecular. And it's going to have properties that are beyond the silicon. And it's going to get down to a thing that can do information processing within, in a way that's going to be molecular.
Well, there's a lot of speculative technologies.
Yeah, but is there
carbon nanotubes, like the rods.
Is the carbon-60 related to all the nanotechnology that's over the horizon, just a couple of years or so, or what?
The carbon-60 is actually the buckyball.
I know. I'm very aware because Bucky Fuller is my main man.
Yeah. So those. I'm not sure actually if C60 is that involved in computation, but there are carbon nanotubes, which is a related structure, which I think people are working on ways of doing computation with them. But I think there's computation, like building computers out of carbon nanotubes. Yeah. But I think that there's a lot of other things that are going to happen before we get to that. And and who knows if that's where we're really going.
It's not clear. Right?
It's not clear.
It's still sort of up for grabs.
So the thing but the closer you are, it's easier to predict tomorrow than next year.
Yeah.
So I would expect things like multi-chip modules and sort of 3D computers. So where you have right now chips are essentially two-dimensional. They're flat. I think we'll probably go 3D using something similar to what we have now. And then there's a whole other thing right now going on called memristors, which is still a 2D technology, but with a different mechanism that's very efficient and very promising to create, to unify storage and computation with the same medium. So you're essentially, right now we have like hard disks, and then we have flash memory, and we have CPUs. The memristor unifies all those into a single material that can do everything at very, very high density.
Yeah, very high density.
But who knows? I think there's a lot of competing technologies, and which one is going to win is hard to predict. But but if you look at sort of the aggregate, the average, or over history, there's a pretty clear curve, and I don't see any end to that.
And it looks like that curve. It seems to me. Excuse me, I'm not a mathematician. You did mathematics. A lot of mathematics involved in what you took your degree and interest in. So you had mathematics, and they have a thing in there. They have hyperbolic, and then they have a thing that's called exponential.
That's right.
And it looks to me that exponential thing. Is it exponential? The iterations of our extended consciousness, which I guess the computer and the internet is, and it's going exponential, and that thing is going almost like L-shaped in the time in which we live.
I think it's not just exponential; it's super exponential.
Super exponential.
It's fast. It's beyond exponential.
Okay, and the rate is increasing all the time of the growth.
Right, because compound interest, exponential is like compound interest. So if it was like Moore's law, if it's doubling
every 18 months,
100% every 18 months or something like that, but it's not. It's actually the doubling period itself is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So, and eventually, because an exponential curve would just keep going up forever.
Yeah.
But it would always have some finite value. And so what, the singularity theory is predicting is that, that doubling period is actually going to drop to 0 and will go through an infinite number of generations at some finite date in the future. And
is that what Kurzweil would call the singularity?
That's what Kurzweil...
Is it roughly machines will exceed human intelligence?
Well, that's a point on the road to getting there.
A pretty big point.
Yes, and I'm when people say machines exceed human intelligence, I think it sets up a sort of a dualistic approach to it, which I don't think is actually doesn't reflect where we're really...
We're going to instantiate hardware even and so forth. They do with the cochlear thing and with the ear.
Yeah, because we are putting machines into our bodies.
Yes, we are.
And our minds are going into the machines. And so I think there's going to be more of a merger than a overtaken by situation.
Yeah, people probably don't like the idea of being overtaken by a machine. I'm going to ask you one more thing before we're going to get right to electric sheep, okay? Because the trouble is you're too damned interesting. You should try not to be so interesting. We
got distracted.
We could talk for hours. Maybe we could do that over a beer or something sometime. But I heard tell that the airplanes of the world, help me out on this, they got a thing called redundancy within computer programs and so forth. You got this awful thing down in the Gulf now and everything.
Yes.
But I heard tell, is it possible that the airlines of the world, Pan Am and all that, the airlines flying, that they would be more efficient and more on time and more, above everything else, would be safer if there were no pilots flying the airplanes? Is that possibly true, or have you ever thought of that?
Oh, well,
it's a great metaphor, maybe, for the human condition, but we're very nervous about the machines taking over. But is that true? A triple redundancy system would have less human death resulting because we get human error when the humans meddle with the thing?
I mean, I think already airplanes are primarily flown by the computers.
Well, the pilot error is what causes the problems.
That's true, but the computers fail too.
Yeah, triple redundancy.
But I think that but every year the computers get better.
Okay.
And
the people don't.
And the people don't. So
okay, maybe, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be. But planes are already so safe. It's just.
I know.
It's not really
It's
something to worry about. The thing that is a factor though is cars. Cars kill tens of thousands of people every year.
Maybe we could have intelligent highways or something.
Smart. How about smart cars?
Yeah.
Let the computer drive your car.
Yeah.
They've already got that at the research level.
Yeah, right.
It just has to be.
But we have this.
And Carnegie Mellon leading the way.
Right.
See.
And Moravec. He's still working there and everything. Or I think
that's a good question. I don't know what he's up to personally.
Okay, you're too interesting. There's no hope. We could go on forever, but we got to get down to things like we want to show a little clip. Okay, maybe you could explain a little bit because you're the founder of this very, very influential, extremely important screensaver that is being used, it seems to me, by increasing numbers. It's probably going to be particularly people within the cyber realms and the leading edge of that, called electric sheep. Maybe just a brief introduction, then we got a clip of you explaining it. But could you just talk a little bit about electric sheep? You're the founder of that?
I founded it in 1999.
Okay.
So it's software that I wrote and then released as open source, and now there's a whole team of people working on it. So it's not just me. And the idea is that everybody who runs the software, all those computers and all those people work together to create a giant cyborg mind. A
cyborg mind.
That's right.
With everybody having input or ability to have
everybody
input?
Has an
open
influence.
Yeah.
And then it's all together, it creates this infinite abstract animation. And that shows up as a screensaver.
It shows up as a screensaver, and it taps into chaos theory and to fractals and.
That's right. And so those are it uses a number of techniques.
Mandelbrot.
No. But Darwinian evolution.
Darwinian evolution's a big
part of it.
Yeah, and thermodynamics. I mean, we understand thermodynamics.
Well, everything is everything is subject to
everything is thermodynamic.
Yes.
It's amazing that we live Every day I wake up, I swear to God, every day I wake up and I'm amazed that anything exists. How in the hell could there be? It's so improbable that there could have been an organic evolutionary process with all the changes that are going on and all the wonder of the world. It's just amazing to me. Very worried about it. But anyway, so this thing is very much become interesting to people. Is it in the office, or it's running at Google and some of the major centers and so forth? Or maybe you could share it. But then we're going to run a clip of you talking about it, a 4 or 5 minute clip.
Yeah, well, you can. The most important thing to remember is you can download it from electricsheep.org. So there's a website. You go there, install it on your PC or Mac, and then you can join the experience.
And it is being joined and understood the significance of it by increasing numbers of people really on the cutting edge of cyber developments, which is so important to the human condition and its improvement and involvement. And we have a little clip from your site, okay?
Okay.
And let's see if we can't run it, because you describe it a little bit. I guess it runs about 3 or 4 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And then later down the line in the program here, we're going to try and project it against our blue screen to let them see the interesting patterns that come out of this experiment.
Great.
But let's see if we can't set that up in the booth. It's about a 4-minute clip with him. Our guest is Scott Draves, the founder of Electric Sheep and a software engineer and artist extraordinaire. So if you could set it up and run that little clip with him talking about it, appreciate that. If you could do that now, then maybe. Please,
I write computer programs that realize abstract art. In particular, I created the Electric Sheep and their dreams in high fidelity with a cyborg mind composed of 60,000 computers and people. This is our story. In the summer of 1992, I invented a visual language that launched my career and spawned a genre. The technique leaves behind the metaphors of the brush and object. Instead, the image emerges from the application of supercomputer power to the resonance between geometric transformations. The result crosses the line from digital into the organic. The next year, on the nascent World Wide Web, I released a gallery of images and code distributed as free software under the GPL. This is perhaps the first instance of open source visual art. At the same time, I submitted several of these flame images to the Prix Ars Electronica and received an honorable mention that summer. As time passed, the code spread. Plugins appeared for standard programs such as Photoshop, After Effects, and the GIMP. It's now used by artists of many stripes. The flame style appears in print and web, movies and television, VJ performances, and on museum walls all over the world. Sometimes with credit, sometimes without. It has become part of our cultural visual landscape and library. I have a PhD in computer science, specializing in metaprogramming, a subfield of artificial intelligence involving programming languages and abstraction. Similarly, my primary artwork is meta-art. Rather than creating specific images, I create a process, a language, and enable anybody to use it for their own creations. Throughout the 90s, I created prize-winning interactive digital art. I also started working as a VJ, doing live performance with my software as well as traditional mixing and sampling. But computers were and still are incapable of realizing in real time the more painterly images that interest me. So in 1999, I implemented a new idea, a render farm linking together thousands of personal computers into a virtual supercomputer. This project, the Electric Sheep Distributed Screensaver, is based on an expanded version of the original Flame algorithm, with the design process opened up to the public. This participatory artwork treats the visual language as a genetic code and then applies evolution driven by audience voting. In this virtual space, user-generated content collaborates and competes with an artificial intelligence to create a seamless, abstract animation, an android dream. Creative Commons licensing makes it a resource to the public, a kind of digital fountain from which anyone can drink. The Electric Sheep were curated into the website for Design and the Elastic Mind, permanently hosted on MoMA.org. In 2006, I began producing limited edition works with this system. These are large databases consisting of hand-picked designs rendered at much higher resolution and slower motion. The result is like a painting that evolves. They are delivered on a small computer and appear as an infinite animation on LCD or projection. This series of works, Dreams in High Fidelity, is the central subject of this documentary. The hi-fi dreams can take many forms, from large-scale projections at performances and onto dancers and musicians, to intimate, flat-screen displays. One is in the lobby at Google's headquarters. Others are in private collections nationally. Our most recent public installation in downtown Manhattan had 3 HD projectors, immersing the unique 60-foot entryway for 2 weeks. The piece shown there, Hi-Fi Dreams No. 2, has a 100 gigabyte high-def video database. It takes a regular computer hours to render each frame of video, and there are 1,000 minute-long clips connected together in a graph to form a true nonlinear video experience. Hundreds of years of computer work and untold human attention is distilled into this small black slab of electronics. The database is guaranteed for life from the artist's files. Beyond that, the playback computer is easy to back up, restore, or recreate, since it's based on open source and commodity components. Feel free to contact me for more information or to arrange a demo. Thank you for your attention.
Hallelujah, brother. Congratulations. That's a lot of stuff packed in there. That's really good. I'm glad it's taking off all over, and I congratulate you enormously on that. And we're going to come back and pick it up. There's so many things we could talk about. It's work that's done. It's being recognized by everyone, and you're following events and everything. We're going to see in a minute or two, we're going to try and have what they call chroma key, the electric sheep that'll come up behind us on the screen, and they can have that as a backdrop to our discussion. And
hopefully the people will still be able to hear what we say.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking away. We'll just keep talking in the old linear kind of way and everything like that. But it's so many different things that are coming up in terms of that. I don't quite know where to begin because it's so overwhelming. It goes into the organic, you said. It goes into a process of mimicking the organic. And let me just say to the audience, they're going to make a transition now, or you fellas in the booth could go and try and make the transition to where the imagery of the electric sheep will come up behind us. There may be a little glitch or something as they make that transition. So with that said, we can go on and just go ahead and do that, and we'll get over and have it come up behind us on the screen when they get that connection made. But it's into the organic. Are we mimicking organic processes where we're coming to understand? We're coming to understand organic processes. Let's see, organic began about 3.8 billion years ago when they made transition from just that. And there's been an evolutionary, as you say, within thermodynamic components. And thermodynamics holds for everything as far as we know in the universe. And then the evolutionary process came. Yeah, and I guess about 8/10 of that was nothing, that process. Once the organic thing from the simple building blocks to that started on this third planet in this universe, as only we know it exists, then there was a development, and then we have a process of organic evolution and quality and transformation like Darwin. I heard you mention Darwin, to where you have a steady state, and then there's a quickening, and then there's punctuated equilibrium, and the new appears, and so forth. So you're into those kind of things where your work mimics the organic evolutionary process, or how do we deal with the linking between these two things, software and organic evolution itself, of which we are a part?
Well, people normally perceive computers as digital devices, and that means zeros and ones, and they think of that as the binary. Naturally, think of black and white, and so that's the opposite. That's like hard mechanical, squares, and that's really sort of the opposite of what we think of as organic, which is soft and squishy and having subtlety and fine structure.
Right.
So.
Oh, let me just say, in the booth, if you could go ahead and try and plug in the electric sheep behind us, go ahead and do that if you would, please, now, and we could have that going. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but maybe they're having trouble doing that, but they'll do it. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay. And, part of my mission, or part of the message of my artwork, is to show that that's not an inherent or property of computers.
Okay.
Or that it's possible. Sure, if you have one bit, then 0, 1, black and white. But if you have lots of bits, you can get all the shades of gray. And so just like, one computer is pretty simple, but thousands or millions of computers starts to develop some sort of subtlety.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Right. So my artwork, yeah. I'm trying to recreate life in this sort of digital form and show people that computers can have these, can really be alive, or life can exist in virtual reality.
Right. One more time, I would ask in the studio if you could let us know if you can get the stream or the chroma working, or you're not going to be able to, or what. If you could let us know that, and then we could do that. Because we'd like to have it going, because it's pretty impressive, and maybe it's going now. There'll be a little break here. Not sure if they're picking it up, and then. Okay.
Here comes Chromo Key.
Here comes Chromo Key. We hear it from the control room. It takes a few seconds for that to happen. Not sure if our mic's being picked up, but maybe it is. Let's hope. And so while they're doing that, making that little transition to where it could come up behind. There we go. And there we go. Yay. Okay, now get it running and get that sucker moving. Kick that into high gear and everything if you can. And anyway, maybe let's us just talk. They'll try and get that thing going and everything like that. But the human organism on the average has something like 100 trillion cells. Did you realize that? Not the life cycle. 100 trillion.
It's an awful lot.
A lot of it is, and everyone matters. Everyone is connected as a system. It works as a system. So we have systems analysis of understanding biological process and so forth. So are there analogs in terms of understanding cybernetics where we're able to get interrelationship between parts that is so complex as, say, a frog? I suppose a frog has a whole bunch of cells, and they all have to have the gas exchange and everything like that, and it all works as a system with an overview systems result, which is an organic life form,
Yeah.
Is the same thing involved in terms of computer science and computer developments in terms of these software programs? Is that an analogy that's worth trying to have in mind, or not?
Yeah, it's a great analogy. We're certainly not at the point of creating frogs in the computer, but we can, we're on the road to that's headed in that direction.
Right, exponentially.
Yeah,
because
and they keep getting, and the computers keep getting faster and more capable.
Yeah, right.
And so, if you believe that it's possible in principle, then it seems like it's going to happen for real. Not that long from now. And so my art is to sort of open up people's eyes to that possibility.
Right, and that's when you said in your piece, you said we move into the organic.
That's what I mean.
And maybe we should understand. We were talking about Marshall McLuhan and Chardin and others,
right.
And that, or even the computer thing. The computer and technology tools. You had a stone, we'd break a a clamshell or something, you know, we had an ability to make the environment different than in an Eden-like sense is the way most creatures engage the outer environment, and probably we did when we were nested in nature in the Paleolithic. But we have this ability to extend consciousness into the environment and make the environment other than, in an Eden-like sense, is given, that's unique to us. Ants make tunnels.
Yeah, well, you know, every animal
but
really has an influence on its environment.
That's true, and it is all one seamless web. It's all Gaia.
That's right. So if you look at it from far away, you know, even bacteria completely transform the atmosphere of the whole planet.
8/10 of the whole evolutionary process was bacteria.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what's different about people is we've put a brain into that loop.
Well, we came up an evolutionary hominoid line that had brains. They have brains, but we have a unique capability to make tools and technology that is pretty unique to us in terms of crafting something new in the evolution of consciousness.
It kicked that into super high gear.
Yeah, with the humanity. It's sort of in that sense, if you take that as your criteria or criterion, then that is like consciousness in its evolution. We do, in a certain sense, apex that ability.
As far as I know.
Yeah, as far as we know, right? And we come up a line, Australopithecine 4 million years ago, Homo habilis, and we probably come off that line in an evolutionary process, and that's 200,000 years ago.
Something like that.
10,000 generations. We've evolved.
It's not very long.
Well, not in the geologic sense at all like that,
right.
but it's there. But now
people think of evolution and species as something that all, the dinosaurs, it was all millions of years ago. But the reality is, people and, like
Homo
us,
sapien,
it's 100,000 years, 200,000 years. They don't know exactly, but it was not that long ago.
No, all out of Africa, I believe, Springer and all that. I think we're all out of Africa and so forth. And now we're coming to a point where that extended, if we could, I don't want to get far afield, but that ability to, I mean, it's different if you're wandering through a forest and you find a cave and you got a place where you can get shelter from the elements or something, to build a house. You can make a house. Or you can make a automobile that will go through, and all of the it's all extensions of consciousness, in a sense, into the environment, the technology. And McLuhan used to say the medium is the message.
Right.
In terms of consciousness, the effect of the existence of the medium is more important than the message that a lot of us concentrate on in terms of, let's say, communication and so forth. Does the same thing apply within cybernetic thinking or cybernetic design?
Yeah, totally. And so, for example, with the electric sheep, part of their message is not the specific design that appears on the screen, but the process, by which it works.
Yeah.
Which is the open source and Darwinian evolution and the sort of worldwide collaborative development.
Yeah, and that's very democratic. Like in the case of the human organism, 100 trillion, that's a big number of cells. And each one matters in a systems way. If you have a runaway, that's called cancer. But they all operate as a system.
Which happens all the time, and they just get killed. But not every cell matters. I mean, you just boom, you can kill 1,000 of them like that.
Yeah, with a sneeze or anything.
Sneeze, right?
Yeah, but the point being systems understanding, and we talk in cybernetics, you talk systems thinking.
Sure,
it's comprehensive, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I was, and cybernetics was something I was reading a lot of in the mid-90s when I was, when I was in grad school. Before when the groundwork for the electric sheep was being laid.
Yeah.
And so, in particular, I was studying programming languages. I was creating new languages and sort of working with metaprogramming.
Yeah, metaprogramming.
Metaprogramming. Yeah. So that's programs that write programs.
Is that like part of artificial intelligence, or?
Yeah, they're very closely related.
Expert systems?
Well, that's a sort of an old-fashioned kind of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so with what I was doing with my art was creating a language for expressing imagery. And so for most of the history of computer graphics, the technique was based on the way graphics was done before computers. Just like when movies, when the cinema appeared, the first thing they did was base it on theater. When computer graphics appeared, the first thing they did was base it on drafting. And so the way that computer graphics works was based on the metaphor of like the pencil, the pen, and the object. And so they took the things that they could do from the real world and then sort of recreated that in the virtual world.
Sort of encompass it or subsume history in a sense. Yeah, the history of extended consciousness. Yeah,
it's a little bit of tools, a little bit of the you recreate each level with it to make the next level. So I don't know if you ever heard the Ernst Haeckel's theory of evolution. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny.
Yeah, I had it with Krapinski or somebody Polish. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Anyway, so there's sort of a
the map
similar
is
thing
not
going
the territory.
On. Well, that's different.
Yeah.
But so anyway, but the thing is, that's when you have the notion of the pen, that's a notion of control. Like you tell the computer, draw a line here, draw a line there, draw a circle, and most computer graphics looks like that, lines and circles. So it has that sort of those geometric, digital feeling, and I wanted to create a language that really jettisoned that and created something new that was really native to the possibility of a computational medium.
Okay, is that the difference between linear and nonlinear, or not? Or am I off
there is.
Yeah.
It really is actually almost exactly. So in linear thinking, there's a direct relationship between the control and the controlled.
Right.
In nonlinear, there's something mysterious going on. It's out of control.
Yeah.
And so the thing I came up with, which was called the flame algorithm, is based on a nonlinear set of equations.
Okay.
And so you put in you have a bunch of numbers which are the parameters to the equation, and then you solve the equation, and every pixel on the screen is a variable. So you have it's a million variables to this equation.
Complexity beyond
So it's very complex. It takes a long time to solve.
I would think. Yeah.
It's not like just drawing a line.
It's not like Fermi's theorem or something.
Well, it's not. It's that's a whole other theoretical thing.
It's mathematics. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a geometric thing, and so like I said, it's the equation that it's solving is it computes the interference pattern or the resonance between transformations of the plane.
Negative and negative feedback, positive feedback.
It's actually related to feedback or video feedback.
Yeah.
Which is if you ever point a video camera at the screen that shows
I've done
that
that
signal.
a lot with the Rolling Stones in the background.
Okay, yeah. So would you ever do this? You take two video cameras and point them at the same screen.
What happens then? I never did that. I should have done it. What happens? Explosion?
More stuff. More stuff.
More
you take
complexity.
two video cameras, combine those signals with a video mixer, and then put that on the screen.
Okay.
That's when you have, so you see one video camera, that's a transformation of the image because you can do scale, rotate, and translate by turning the camera and zooming. If you have two cameras, then you have the two cameras create two transformations, and then those two transformations, there's a resonance, or it forms a pattern between them.
Right. Resonancy and pattern recognition.
It's a resonance between these transformations. And then what we did, because
resonance.
Resonance.
Does that fit into synergy, or Fuller used to go around talking about synergy, and he'd say an audience of 5,000 scientists, if anybody heard the word synergy, no hand would go up. Everybody knew energy, nobody knew now it's on every ad agency's lips. Behavior systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts. There's something resonatingly more than the sum of the parts within a subsystem or an overall system, and it's all resonancy in a certain sense between systems analysis, it seems to me. And synergy is unpredicted by the sum of the parts.
Yes.
The universe is synergetic, I think.
Well, life itself, I think, is the essence of life is synergy.
Yeah, and it may be even just within thermodynamics, because we come out of a thermodynamic pre-organic condition, don't we, out of the Big Bang?
That's right, and it's been, one long crazy story.
13.8 billion years. CERN's going to take a picture of the shock wave within They got it within 200,000 years now of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago.
Yeah,
and then you got the theory, you know, mathematics of string theory. Do you understand the mathematics of string theory?
I do not.
There may be, oh, you don't, but you're familiar. That's
yes.
what I am, like a layman. But it may be that we're part of, the mathematics seem to show we're part of parallel universes. There may be other universes other than the one created by the Big Bang, 13 point. But
true.
They're going to get a picture of the shock wave, they tell me, within 1 second of its occurrence 13.8 billion years ago. That's a pretty high order of taking the measure of things characterized by Homo sapiens.
It's amazing.
It is. We live in amazing time.
Yeah, that's probably the background radiation, and they're finding these wrinkles in it, which are essentially the echo of the inflationary period. So, well,
they have the W thing. They have the W telescope array, and now they got this other LISA or something, or I think it's related to CERN, and they're going to get an image of the shock wave within a second of its occurrence.
But
we
CERN,
have one now from the WAM that from W, which shows 200,000 years, about the time he almost. It's interesting. It's balanced against how long Homo sapiens been.
Well, that's as far back as light can go.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't get off on a tangent, but except that it is synergetic and resonancy is very important.
Right. And so, so I was trying to create visual languages that really were native to this new computational medium. Mm-hmm. And so that was, and the way that happened was I was actually on I had an internship because I was in Japan, in Tokyo. Because this was the early 90s. It was the time when Japan was the future.
They were buying RCA building and everything, and it was sort of like we feel about China now. Maybe.
Right. So they wanted to. I was a technology grad student, and so ultimately funded by the Department of Defense, or primarily the National Science Foundation plays a role too. But they want to make sure that we're keeping up with what's going on over there, so they sent people over there. And so I went over there, and they hooked me up with a research lab, and they gave me some work to, from the Japanese perspective, they weren't so interested. So they gave me some work to do, and I did it, and then they're like, okay, you can have the rest of the summer off. And so I had.
So then you really went.
I had a supercomputer for my personal use.
Really?
Totally.
A Cray or?
It wasn't a Cray. It was Silicon Graphics.
Okay.
It was a graphic supercomputer. It was the biggest, fastest machine they had.
That must have been heaven on earth for you.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And so
just go play.
Right. Yeah. And so for a long time, I had been sort of working with these equations on my regular little dinky little PC I had at home. And when I was trying to solve the equation with a regular PC, I really had to sort of take shortcuts and just do a sort of vague approximation.
Yeah.
And in order to get any kind of result at all. And so, but now I had unlimited computer power.
What a power!
So I was able to finally say, forget about the limits, just solve the equation correctly, compute the correct, real, true answer.
Really interesting.
And that was like that's like a microscope.
Right. Yeah.
That gave me a view into these equations,
right.
and it was incredible what we saw. And so that was the beginning of the flame algorithm, which is the visual language that's the basis for the electric sheep.
I see. What is an algorithm? We hear that.
An algorithm.
Yeah. I know it's very basic.
It's a term to describe. It's an abstract term for a computer program, more or less. It's a set of instructions that can be turned into a program that a computer can follow. So,
do we have things? Do we have analogs or analogy to that to biological process? We have the brain. What do we have? 10 to the 11th power, I think, neurons in the human brain, and they're not hardwired. They're interconnected by axons from the neurons, 10 to the 11th, I think, 10 to 10 to 11th.
Yeah, I don't know the specific numbers.
And they have axons, like roots that go out, and the roots lay all up like this, and then there's a synaptic cleft, and we didn't know. The thing that gets me, I'm being older and everything, is that how in the modern era every day there comes over the transom another revolution in every field, all over all of science. And it's amazing what we're coming to know. And we have these neurotransmitters and each mind and everything. So there's a space there between them and everything. So we're coming to know these processes very, very, very much more all the time at this particular time.
Yeah, well, there's an incredible...
Do you think we're coming to if I may, do you think we're coming in evolution? When you have evolution, you have steady state.
Yes.
For a long time. Steady state, steady state. Let's put up curtains and make it really nice here. And then there's an impetus, it goes through it. It's like tensional integrity. Fuller used to talk about compression and tensional integrity that goes through the system, and then it's going, and then there's a quickening. It's sort of like an analogy to the birth process. There's a quickening within a species or within an evolutionary, and then there's what they call Gould and Eldridge in evolution.
Yeah, Stephen Jay Gould's punctuated equilibrium.
They call punctuated equilibrium, the new appears.
Right, well, if there's a revolution...
Do you think we may be coming, I'm asking you, after 200,000 years of evolution as Homo sapien, we may be coming to a point of qualitative transformation in the evolution of what would be seen as perhaps consciousness itself? We may be coming to something comparable to an evolutionary transformation in our relationship to the broader cosmos than what we have been through, gestatingly so, throughout 200,000 years of the existence of Homo sapien?
Yeah, I think...
You think so?
I think something's
That would be
happening.
like a liberation, perhaps, or something?
I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, that's a loaded term, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That puts a particular spin on it. But, you know, I think something's happening. I don't think it's happening in an evolutionary sense of species, because...
You don't think punctuated equilibrium holds?
No, I think it does hold. I think that's a sort of a universal phenomenon.
Yeah.
But, you know, their term, when you say punctuated equilibrium, it refers to evolution of species.
Yes, right. Organic evolution of species, of which we are part, and that's part of second law of thermodynamics.
But I don't think a new species is going to appear, because what we're seeing now is technological evolution, which is happening way faster.
Yeah, it's happening fast. And that's not happened with any other species that I know of that's been able to change the environment so qualitatively, so massively, that we've been able to do. And we now have, and I think we have extensions of that consciousness gave us great power, has it not?
Yes.
And one of the aspects of that power is for some geopolitical leader to develop a weapons system by hiring the design people like Da Vinci and so forth to make a weapons system that would give a political leader advantage over others so they could steal their grain and become strong. Geopolitics is still in the week. And the weapons systems now, you have are they species lethal if they were to be unleashed? Unlike 200,000 years, and we weren't able to do in the Second World War, do we come to an existential new reality in universe as a species within a Gaia-like kind of complexity, but that there's something, Bobby Dylan said something's going on, something big is going on.
Well, I'm not sure, but we passed that, we passed the point of the possibility of self-destruction, 40 years ago.
When? About 1970.
Yeah.
Yeah. About 1970 is when most of the modeling says we reached that. We couldn't do it in 45, which is big boy.
Just a couple of bombs went to it.
We tried, and we were impotent in our gestating impotency, right? And then is there in a world where you see some sort of a yin and yang or something balanced, is there something on the positive side? That's the negative side. That
the positive side is presumably that the Cold War brought stability to and so since World War II, we haven't had any world wars. We haven't had any total wars. Mm-hmm. So there certainly have been wars, and lots of people are dying, and we're doing it right now. Mm-hmm. That's a whole other topic. Yeah,
we're not. You and I are talking art and cosmos, and that we're not talking geopolitics and everything. But these things do interrelate, don't they? In a synergistic world where everything's connected to everything else.
Yeah, well, it's and I think part of the reason I do art is to affect people's attitudes and perceptions in order to affect a better situation. And there certainly are other places where there's conflict happening, there's conflict in cyberspace, and the wars of ideas. For example, the copyright wars and DRM wars right now, and what's called and the culture wars. And so that's where the action is, and that's where the electric sheep are playing a role.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing because it's open source and so democratic, and it's got organic models and everything like that. And
part of what I want to do with it is show people, for example, there's a lot of people that don't believe in Darwinian evolution, for example.
I know. I don't quite understand how people don't. It seems to me, I don't.
If you've been told one thing since you were a kid by your parents, it's hard to escape. Yeah, and it's
science and so
there's
forth.
Also there's a part of it which makes sense, which is if you think of the idea of evolution is that creativity, or the beauty of life, our incredible all the incredible nature that surrounds us. The ultimate source of that is randomness.
Yeah, well, I would say that. Yeah, it has to be synergetic.
Randomness and selection. Those are the ingredients of
evolution.
Maybe
we're meant second law. We say everything's second law. Everything's thermodynamic, and so maybe this species was meant to entropy, to join chaos and to blow itself up.
Right, and so that's.
But it may be also meant on the living room side. Perhaps there's something qualitatively new, as existentially significant as the destruction we've done, that is qualitatively new, that could be liberating. We have a capability of providing for everybody and the ecology that we simply haven't had out of history, which would be the averse side of the destructive scenario. And we're reifying our old outdated institutions. We have to have something to bring a new kind of singularity that I guess
right. Well, we have the material goods and we have the technology, but we just so far. The question is the will and the psychology of our leaders. So.
We also have, you were talking before about linking it to linear, and we have all of our institutions out of history. It was in one condition that has been qualitatively transformed at another level, meta, to the historical institutions, and we have to anchor ourselves to history, and we reify those, but we have to have a vision of a different order than that which we've had that comes out of history, and we don't have vision yet of how we're going to, in a certain sense, liberate the people that make up the human society within an ecological context, coming from our leadership. It'll come from our artists and our poets, and we don't have that vision now, do we? Or do we?
Well, it's there, but it just has to be, more people have to tune into it, and it has to be made easier to understand. And so, part of what I was saying is I think evolution, it is really unintuitive that, there's the standard canon of the creationists is that, mutation could actually, how can mutation actually do something better? It would be like, finding a watch in the desert, right?
Thank you. We've run out of time, unfortunately.
Oh my God!
Your pleasure, Scott Draves, software engineer, extraordinary artist, electric sheep founder, amazing person. You're doing great work. Keep it up. You're on the course to helping us find the solutions to what put us on the living room path and maybe transcend its role here in the universe. Now, thanks a lot for all your very good work.
Thanks.
Thanks for viewing. Thank you for viewing.
Cheers.
So.
It went well. A little awkwardness getting the.
Yeah, but is it?
Took a few tries, but it worked.
Are we over? Are we over now?
Yeah.
Okay. Point talking if it isn't.